Hey everyone, Lindsay Davis here with Spartan Invest, and I'm so excited that you're joining us for another episode of Sips with Spartan. Now, for those of you who know, we take this opportunity to talk about topics that are maybe going on in the market. We started it with COVID. Hey, what was going on in the turnkey space? And we've kept all of these episodes up just to inform investors or people who are looking to invest in rental properties, just as much information as possible. So I'm very excited to have Stan Weldy here as my special guest. He is going to be discussing all things new construction. Now, since this is relatively new to Spartan, providing new construction turnkey properties, we're going to dive into how we approach it differently, the challenges that we've seen post-COVID. My goodness, there's been a ton, and dive as much into that. So sorry, Stan, I'm rambling, but go ahead, introduce yourself. Sorry.
Like Lindsay said, my name is Stan Weldy. I'm the director of new construction for Spartan Invest. I've had my home builder's license for over 20 years in the state of Alabama. I'm a third generation builder, so I've been doing this for a minute.
Yes, and he heads up all of our new construction properties. And right now we've got about 84 properties in various stages of new construction. So he's not busy at all. Basically, is what
just a little,
just a smidge. Okay, so I think everyone is aware the challenges and the increases in all of the material costs that we've seen. And so I want you to dive a little bit more into that. You know, everybody knows that the price of lumber has shot up. Everybody knows that general building materials has gone up. I think lumber has definitely taken the cake, but everything else we've seen an increase in.
Right.
What have you seen? And then how has that affected the ability to build?
Well, we had a little bit of a perfect storm during the pandemic. When everybody went to quarantine, everybody started doing do-it-yourself projects, trying to spruce up their own home, trying to make.
I did it. I'm guilty.
We all did. We kind of thought we'd see a pullback in the market, and it never came. So, as construction was deemed essential, everything just kept rocking and rolling. Obviously, the biggest jump we saw in all of our material was lumber. Which got to be at ridiculous levels. But gradually, as the pandemic progressed and moved on, all materials started seeing increases because you had plant shutdowns and just, the labor shortage. There were just various anomalies that just really drove pricing up. And like I said, it was just kind of a perfect storm.
Right. And then you had also, sawmills, I know, played a really big part in that. They really pulled back through the recession, and they've not been overproducing, anything. And so now they get met with all of this demand. And I'm cheating right now by reading this stat, but 80% of people said yes, that they were doing at-home repairs that required lumber. I mean, that's 80% of the people that were asked. So you've got a huge spike in demand. And then these sawmill, they're not going to overproduce because they don't want to get stuck in another 08.
Well, that's right. So, during the recession, we saw a big pullback and a lot of the smaller sawmills went out of business altogether. So production's been about on even keel with demand. But when we did hit the pandemic, all the sawmills figured demand would pull back, and it really just never did. So between, us having the pandemic going and lumber shortages and mill shutdowns and the do-it-yourself people out there, the economy actually shrank by 3.5%, but repairs grew at 3%. So it's kind of just like I said, it's an absolute anomaly the way it happened, but here we are.
Right. And it's so funny. We started building new construction when you came on Spartan, like a month after everything shut down. Like, this was in place. Like, man, we picked a really crazy time to start building new construction, even though it had been in the works for a long time. There's a couple of things that Spartan has seen, even on the rental property side, in that a lot of people working from home. So they want to have bigger houses, moving out of multifamily apartments. So you've got just a demand in people wanting houses.
Another thing, we've got the record low interest rates, and you pair that with the just non-existent inventory, and it's really created demand for new housing. It's unlike anything I've ever seen in the last 25 years, to be honest.
Right. And so much of the demand for inventory was there pre-COVID. Now the interest rates, not so much. Obviously, the Fed's keeping those very, very, down to help, but the inventory shortage, and just I can speak for Alabama in that a good market has 6 months of inventory. Well, March 2020, our inventory in the Birmingham, Central Alabama area was less than 3 months. Now, over the last 6 to 8 months, we've been under a month inventory, but we went into this pandemic with already a low inventory.
That's right. So coupled with that low inventory, now we have labor shortages, and we have supply chain issues. And we're not the only builder dealing with it, obviously. Every builder is having to deal with it, but you're really having to kind of think outside the box. And where in the past we've ordered just-in-time inventory for our windows to show up just in time for the install, we're having to order windows 3 weeks before we ever start a house now.
So how are you? How does that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like go more in. How does that affect the process, and how are you able to time? Because so much of building efficiently, which is that's the name of the game. That's what we're trying to do. It is getting the materials on time. So it's like now we can't even predict that. So how has Spartan been handling that?
A lot of it deals with scheduling when you're dealing with construction. So we're actually doing a lot of putting the cart before the horse now. We're just having to really look ahead on our schedules and see what different materials we are having problems getting with their supply chains. And when we look ahead to see that, then we're just having to plan that much further ahead versus when I would have used to ordered cabinets 4 weeks before I needed them. Now I'm ordering cabinets 12 weeks before I need them. So it's really becomes in the planning process before we ever start the project. We're going ahead and ordering the materials that we know there's going to be a bottleneck on.
Right. And going back to what you were saying earlier, too, one other point was that the type of property that we're building as well is so different than what the vast majority of new construction is out there building. What do you think the average price is for a new construction home that your DR Horton or just even your average home builder is building?
I mean, I would say if you're looking at a lower end starter home right now, you're going to be somewhere in the $170 to $180 a square foot. That's not including lot cost. That's just build cost. Of course, we value engineer our housing towards, investors. We want to use durable products that are easy to replace if they need to be. So we really, look at building our houses towards an investor standpoint. So our price is a little bit lower than your average because our finishes, aren't quite so high as, you might get into if you were just looking in a median market.
Right. And, most of the houses that are being built out there, new construction home are, 15 to 2,000, and they're in the 300 to 350 range just on resale at the end of the day. And then ours are, from 2 to 240 because we're focusing on the things that are going to make it a good turnkey property, not necessarily your starter home, like for owner occupant.
That's right. So, we go in and we'll look at things like covered porches and things of that nature. Are these really unnecessary for a rental home? Well, they're great for your, starter family that's buying a house, but you don't necessarily need to spend all that additional money on lumber if you're, going to use it for a rental home. So those are the kind of aspects where we do the value engineering at to make sure we're taking those into account.
So for new construction, doing it in-house, right? We had started building some new construction homes with a third-party home builder, and then decided to make the move in-house. What kind of effect does that have on our ability to price the properties and kind of the pros and cons of buying directly a new construction home directly from a turnkey provider?
Well, I think once again, it goes back to that value engineering aspect. We're able to buy in bulk because all of our finishes are always the same on each and every house. So that allows us to buy in great quantities of whatever we're purchasing. We also have multiple vendors that we're using to actually help try to bridge the gap in the supply chain breakdowns right now. So we're able to look at, if this manufacturer is on a shutdown, a mandatory shutdown, and we're able to go to our next manufacturer and say, well, we're going to bridge the gap with this window while they're in a mandatory shutdown for maintenance. And we do that across the board for all of our supplies.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think that aspect of it, because when you get into other home builders and, even if they're not a custom home builder, there's still different options. So they're carrying 5 or 6 different light fixtures and paints and everything. And we're just not doing that. It's like, hey, this the same that is our renovation properties for turnkey is it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close to what we're doing for the new construction.
That's right. We use a lot of the same materials, and doing that, we're also able to outsource that. We've been able to cut out a lot of middlemen. We're importing our own materials now. And we've really just been able to partner up with our lumber firms and things of that nature. And they know that the bulk and volume that we're going to buy in, and we're giving discount rates because of that. So we're really able to tailor it specifically just for the investment property, so that our investors get the most bang for their buck.
Right. And that's huge, because still being able to keep the cost. Now, we've seen our costs go up, from when we were projecting to build in March of 2020 versus us projecting to build now. I mean, it has gone up, but not to the level of, 50, 60% that we've seen other new constructions, because we're able to streamline that process and keep those costs down. So on the lots, on the acquisition of the land,
Mm-hmm.
how are we able to save on that purchase?
Well, obviously we've got relationships with developers because of the amount of lots that we buy. We've also started to get into doing our own developing. Once again, that kind of goes cutting out the middleman. And then we also are constantly looking for distressed lots, bank-owned lots, estate lots, or anything of that nature.
I gotcha. And I know we've got the one development going in Tuscaloosa, but that's our one development. Everything else we're trying to already get pre-developed.
That's right.
And so one of the reasons why we have focused so much on new construction as far as turnkey goes, it's the ROI that the investors are able to get and factoring in the appreciation. Now, again, if you've listened to any of these SIPs and you've read any of our blogs, you know that we do not push appreciation for a few reasons. Historically, Birmingham and Alabama and the Southeast outside of Atlanta doesn't typically see a ton of appreciation. We're not Southern California, New York, where we see, 25, 30% appreciation year over year. We're a consistent 3 to 4%. Which is good, but your property is not going to just appreciate at these crazy levels. But you will have the consistency. So in the past, we've always sold appreciation as just more of the cherry on top for turnkey real estate when it comes to Alabama, and that you're going after your good rate of return, your cash flow, your depreciation, tax breaks, et cetera. However, with the new construction homes, building in nicer neighborhoods, all new, it's a brand new product. Your maintenance is obviously extremely low, little to non-existent. And, for the first 5 to 10 years, because it is a new construction property. And then you've got the ability to appreciate at a higher rate than the original turnkey properties. So that's one thing that we really like to focus on with the new construction is, hey, the lower maintenance and then the potential for the future appreciation. So since we've seen some, we talked about the prices skyrocketing. We've seen some of them come down, not to pre-COVID price yet, but we have seen them come down. When are you expecting the timelines to get a little bit better? Now that, if we've seen the price come out, I don't know how long that takes to see the end product delivered, pre-COVID scheduling. So what are you thinking as far as that timeline goes?
I think a lot of that's going to have to do with the demand on labor right now as we come out of the pandemic and more people are able to get back into manufacturing and doing the things that pushes our suppliers in the right direction, then I think we're going to see those times come down. But as far as, pricing and what not goes, we think we're going to have a pretty robust market all the way through 2022. And we'll probably start seeing some prices retreat back to pre-pandemic levels in 2023. I mean, the only way out of this is to build more houses. So that's what we intend to do. I know we're really excited about building in these times. Although it's been a little bit difficult, we're maneuvering and adjusting, and we're really excited to be able to get some new inventory out there.
Right. And I mean, for tenants and investors alike, because investors are wanting that inventory to, help with retirement and invest outside of the stock market, especially post-COVID. And then for, our tenants as well, and then providing good brand new homes and that are cash flowing rental properties for investors. So yeah, I'm with you, Stan. We're very excited to continue to build as many new construction homes as we possibly can. No pressure at all. But thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. If you want to know more about our new construction homes or what our price points are, projected ROIs for new construction, visit us at spartaninvest.com, and there is a new construction tab. You can find a ton of information on it.